In the early 1960s, Houston, Texas, was gripped by a case that would stir both public outrage and legal debates for decades. The individuals at the heart of this crime were two women, Carolyn Lima and Elaine Perez. Their involvement in the murder of a local real estate agent named Fred Tones would spark a long and controversial legal journey that revealed deep flaws in the criminal justice system, explored the role of mental health in criminal accountability, and ultimately became a reflection of the social tensions surrounding gender and sexuality during that time. The story begins in 1961 when both Lima and Perez were living in Houston. At the time, both women were engaged in sex work, an occupation that, though common, was often met with societal disdain. Perez, in particular, was known to have had a tumultuous and difficult life. Born in 1940, she had a difficult childhood and had been involved in a variety of legal and personal struggles throughout her youth. Lima, on the other hand, had a less documented early life, but both women shared a similar fate of turning to sex work to survive in a world that offered them few other options. Fred Tones, a local real estate agent in his early 40s, crossed paths with the two women when he visited a hotel room in downtown Houston, allegedly for a meeting. It's unclear whether the intention was to meet for sexual services or for some other transaction, but what is clear is that the meeting turned violent. According to later confessions and testimony, a confrontation occurred, leading to Tones' death at the hands of Lima and Perez. Tones was found dead with multiple gunshot wounds to his body. His body was also burned with gasoline, a detail that raised the stakes of the crime and created even more questions about the motives behind it. Early reports stated that the crime had occurred during a robbery gone wrong, but evidence later suggested a more chaotic and volatile interaction. Lima and Perez had shot Tones, seemingly in the heat of the moment, and then set his body on fire to cover their tracks. The nature of the crime shocked the local community. The media quickly latched onto the case, painting Lima and Perez as cold-blooded killers. The details of their lives and their involvement in sex work only added to the sensationalism of the case. However, as the investigation progressed, more complexities began to emerge about the women's circumstances, their mental states, and the social climate of the time. Carolyn Lima and Elaine Perez were eventually arrested after a series of investigations led authorities to their door. Initially, both women denied involvement in the crime, but as detectives dug deeper, the truth began to emerge. Perez was found to have a troubled history, having been in and out of institutions, and having struggled with significant psychological issues. Lima, although less documented in terms of mental health, also displayed signs of distress during questioning. At trial, Lima and Perez's legal defense team raised questions about their mental health. Perez, in particular, was described as having a diminished mental capacity, with reports indicating she had been diagnosed with mental health conditions prior to the incident. Lima was portrayed as someone who was deeply involved in the chaos of her life and her relationship with Perez, and the defense argued that the events leading to Tones' death had been triggered by a combination of external factors, including their difficult circumstances and mental health struggles. Despite these arguments, the jury found Lima and Perez guilty of murder. Initially, they were both sentenced to death, a fate that would hang over them for several years as the case moved through the courts. However, the case took an unexpected turn when it was revealed that the prosecution had withheld key evidence during the trial, including psychological evaluations that could have affected the outcome. The defense team appealed the verdict on the grounds that the women had not been afforded a fair trial. Among the most significant revelations was that the prosecution had failed to present evidence suggesting that Perez was legally insane at the time of the crime. Reports from psychologists who had examined her prior to the trial indicated that Perez had been suffering from severe mental health issues, possibly to the point where she lacked the mental capacity to understand the consequences of her actions. As the case continued, it became clear that the legal system had mishandled the proceedings in numerous ways. The revelations surrounding Perez's mental health led to her being declared legally insane, which resulted in her being sent to a psychiatric institution rather than being executed. Lima, too, saw her death sentence commuted, though her punishment was still severe, and she was sent to prison to serve out a lengthy sentence. However, the story of Lima and Perez did not end with their convictions. In 1965, Elaine Perez made headlines once again when she escaped from the psychiatric institution where she had been sent. Perez managed to evade authorities for 6 months, during which time she became a notorious fugitive. Her escape was widely covered in the media, adding another layer of intrigue to an already complex case. Perez's time on the run would soon be characterized by an unusual public persona. During this period, she allegedly adopted the identity of Bobo the Clown, a nickname that would later become infamous in criminal circles. The strange choice of alias was not just a bizarre detail but a reflection of the psychological turmoil Perez was enduring during this period. Eventually, the FBI tracked her down, and after a dramatic capture, Perez was sent back to face the consequences of her actions. In the years following her return to prison, Perez's story took a dramatic turn. After spending time in a Texas prison, Perez underwent gender confirmation surgery, marking a significant change in her life. She became one of the first transgender individuals in the United States to have a story of this nature garner widespread attention. After her release, Perez went on to become an activist within the LGBTQ+ community in Houston, advocating for the rights of transgender people and speaking openly about the struggles she had faced throughout her life. Her transformation from a notorious fugitive and convicted murderer to an activist was a testament to the complexities of identity, mental health, and societal expectations. Perez's story also highlighted the significant struggles that transgender people faced during this time, especially as they navigated a world that was largely unaccepting of their existence. The case of Carolyn Lima and Elaine Perez is one that is filled with complexities. It is a story of crime, punishment, mental health, and transformation. At its core, it reveals the struggles faced by two women who were caught in a system that did not fully understand or accommodate their individual circumstances. From the violent death of Fred Tones to Perez's eventual role as an LGBTQ+ activist, this case raises important questions about the nature of justice, the treatment of women and marginalized groups, and the ways in which society views those who fall through the cracks. While the case of Lima and Perez may have faded from the headlines over the years, it remains a stark reminder of the challenges faced by those on the fringes of society. It underscores the importance of examining the larger social and psychological factors that shape criminal behavior and the need for a more nuanced approach to justice, one that takes into account the complexities of mental health, gender identity, and societal pressures. This is not just a case about crime. It is a reflection of a time in history when the world was beginning to confront deeper questions about identity, justice, and the treatment of those who were different. The story of Carolyn Lima and Elaine Perez is, at its core, a story about survival, struggle, and transformation, with lasting lessons for today.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.